Good morning. Hello, and thank you for joining our session today. We really appreciate you taking the time to attend our Fly with AI webinar. So first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Neil Jelly. I'm Head of Sales for Kuiper, and I have the pleasure of hosting you today. And I'd also now like to welcome our guest presenters who will be taking you through the solution overview and some of the Copilot use cases. So if you can have the next slide, please. So to kick off, I have the pleasure of introducing our partners from Ingram Micro and their modern workplace team. So that's Armando Rodrigues and Markey. Both Mike and Armando have a huge amount of experience in the Microsoft product portfolio and license suite, and in particular around Copilot and what this can do for your organization. So I look forward to them both taking you through the slides and showing you the Copilot in use. We'll of course be happy to take questions throughout the presentation, and we'll explain more around this shortly. So I'll quickly now take you through today's agenda, which first of all is to take you through the current findings of AI, which will cover some interesting stats and observations. We'll cover what is Copilot, explaining what it is and how it can help your role and organization. We'll then go into Copilot use cases, where you can use and see actually how it can be used for your organization. Next will be then how to prepare your business for using Copilot. So it'll be things like how to get started and things to consider. And once we've gone through the whys and hows, we'll then move into some videos and animations so you can see Copilot in action. We'll then jump into the next steps. So following that is how to engage with the team, where to find resources, documentation, and items such as adoption kits and things like that. You'll also see a Q&A box where we'll be happy to accept any questions from you may have. You'll see that on the top of the screen. So pop any questions in there, and at the end of the session, we'll do our best to answer them right away. Or if not, we'll arrange appropriate follow-ups. And finally, post this webinar, you'll be sent a short questionnaire via email for you to complete. It shouldn't take long, it shouldn't take more than a few minutes, but we'd really appreciate your feedback. So without further ado, I'll now hand you over to Mike and first of all, Armando, to take you through the presentation. Armando, over to you.
I've lost connection.
Oh, I can hear you, Armando. You there?
Oh, you can hear me? Oh, yes, perfect. I couldn't hear you for a second, Neil.
Yep, you're all good. So over to you.
Next slide, please, Stu. Good morning, everybody. My name is Armando Rodrigues, and I'm the partner manager for Ingram Micro and for Kuiper. So where do we begin? So yes, Microsoft created a survey with Work Trend Index, and this and what we've seen is now the platform shift to AI is well underway, and just as customers turn to Microsoft to help them make the shift to remote and flexible working, they're now turning to Microsoft to help them understand how the new era of AI will change work yet again. So we've long relied on our data and help us understand what we were doing in work and so forth, and where work is going. We do that through our annual, work trend indexes. It's as well as productivity signals from Microsoft Graphs and from labor market trends from LinkedIn. Can you give me another next slide, please, Stu? So this slide sort of shows you the feedback we got from Microsoft got from these 31,000 users, and it's beforehand 64% of people are saying they were finding it hard they didn't have energy, finding it hard to do all the work, to get the work done. 60% of customers were finding it was hard to actually do the time to search for information during the workday. And business owners and CEOs and MDs were saying that the leaders had lack of innovation and creativity, and it was hard to find ideas and so forth, So, after using AI and getting, there was like a little early survey used and so forth, and they had a team using the 31,000 users using AI. The results were that 70% of users found it more productive. 68% said the quality of the work had improved. And this is the craziest thing. It wouldn't apply to me, but it's a 70% of people saying they would rather use Copilot than have a lunchtime at least once a week. So. And then 70% of people said they wouldn't give it up as well. They would want to keep Copilot and never give it up because it helped them. It gave them more creativity, gave them more time to do things that they actually more important to the work and find ideas, better ideas to enhance the company, enhance the business. Can you next slide, please? So this is the growth of quick growth of AI. So it took 16 years to get 100 million mobile users, 7 years to get 100 million internet users, and 4.5 years to get 100 million Facebook users. But it took 3 months to get ChatGPT to 100 million users. So you can see the growth, the speed of people wanting to use AI technology and likes of ChatGPT and Copilot and so forth. Can you get the next slide, please, Hugh? So last year in March, Microsoft released Copilot for Microsoft 365. Initially, it was a pilot project, and only a certain couple of people can use it. Now, of course, it's now live and it's been going since November last year, and since January the 16th of this year for all customers who've got Microsoft 365. Can you go next slide, please? Quickly play a video on Copilot.
Whoa. Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop. Stand still, that's the motto. Yeah. Brand new bands for the auto. Oh. Foot to the ground, full throttle. Big energy for the night like lotto. Y'all talk lots, never this quiet. Like a Seinfeld plot. Vault full of songs, all of them bombs. Something like a minefield guy. Boom. Get it, tickets running out quick. Bet it, never get it out big. Said it, never had to shout it. They said I couldn't never do it, okay, how's it? Fit a week worth of work in a minute. Machine well oiled, you know how I stay efficient. To-do list written, I do this different. Hold up, wait a minute, I ain't finished. Okay. Look, flows the same now. Paved the way, the snakes and fakes are chased out. Back to back. I changed the pace now. Had to stack the cash until the bank's out.
Slow down.
Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop.
So you've been using Microsoft 365 for security, for endpoints, and for productivity, and now you're actually ready for Copilot. Copilot for Microsoft 365 is your AI assistant to work. At work, it builds on Copilot, but it's in this class of its own. It includes enterprise-grade security, privacy and compliance, and responsible AI to ensure that all data processing happens inside the Microsoft 365 customers, inside Microsoft 365 tenants, using technology. Microsoft 365 customers also have relied on for many, many years. Microsoft's comprehensive approach, along with the fact that Copilot will work alongside a user, embedded into the apps millions of people are using every single day, and the functionality of pieces that help set Copilot apart and enable you to deliver an experience that unleashes creativity, unlocks productivity, and up-levels skills. So for a comprehensive list of products include that Microsoft 365 Copilot can use, we'll go to the next slide, please. And you'll see it's embedded in all your Microsoft apps. So your Word, your PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, Excel, and obviously Bing. Can you go next slide, please? So this is quickly a diagram on how Microsoft Copilot architecture works. And it's just, basically a six-stage process. And obviously the first thing is, number one step, obviously the user prompts Copilot and sends a message to Copilot, please, can you access this data? I want this result. Copilot then accesses the graph and other services for the grounding. The third step, Copilot sends modified prompt to a large language model, which is LLM. Copilot receives the LLM response, and from that, Copilot acts as graph for compliance and purview. And then Copilot then sends a response and an app command back to Microsoft 365 apps. In summary, Copilot literally processes and orchestrates these sophisticated services to produce results that are relevant to you and to your business because they are contextually based on your organization's data. And the latest and greatest from the web and the third-party extensions to you. So you have all of your favorite client canvases or client data or apps at your fingerprints. And most importantly, and this is very important, all your data at rest or during transit is encrypted to keep your data safe, compliant, and provides your admins the capability to manage your tenants' data securely. In the next slide, please. So Copilot allows you to save time on tasks to be completed, allows you to get more done, including secondary tasks, and also can be more creative day to day, makes you more creative day to day with generative AI. So in reality, Copilot is an AI which is allowing to work on autopilot. Now I'm going to hand over to Mike to deliver some user cases.
Thanks, Armando. So there's a couple of videos we're just going to show you through where it's application based for Copilot itself. If you would like to see these demonstrations in further detail, you can reach out to the team at Kuiper following the session itself. But if we can go to the next slide, Stuart, please, and we'll play the first one.
Copilot in Outlook can help you prioritize your time and stay on top of meetings. Here you've been invited to a meeting that conflicts with the meeting you're planning to attend. Clearly, you can only attend one. From the meeting invite, you can choose to RSVP with follow. Switching over to your calendar, you can see that you're now following this meeting. Once the meeting starts on Teams, the organizer will receive a notification to record the meeting because someone is following it. Now, after the meeting is done and the recording is ready, Copilot will notify you that the meeting recap is ready for you to review. You can then ask Copilot some questions about the meeting, like, summarize this meeting, or are there any action items for me? That way you can stay on top of things as if you were present during the meeting.
And then if we move into Teams meetings, what the experience would look like within here.
Copilot in Outlook can help you prioritize your time and stay on top of meetings.
Just the next one,
Here
Stuart,
you've been
please.
invited. Imagine you have an appointment that conflicts with your weekly business review. What if you could do both? With Copilot, you can opt to follow a meeting. After the meeting ends, Copilot will summarize what you missed. You'll get a notification in Teams when the recap is ready. This recap will highlight content that was shared, summarize notes, and any action items for you or others whose names were mentioned. You see that one of your customers was discussed, and you want to learn more. You can ask Copilot clarifying questions, and it provides a detailed response. It can tell you why a certain decision was made, and gives you helpful context. You can even ask Copilot what other solutions were considered, and it provides citations from the transcript so you can see where Copilot drew these conclusions. It's a huge time saver. So that was pretty cool. But the real magic of Copilot happens during a live meeting. Let's say you're in a meeting with your team. You can ask Copilot to summarize the meeting so far. You can see how it summarizes who said what points were made, and it's really capturing the spirit of the discussion. And as the meeting progresses, you can check in on where people stand. You can even ask Copilot what questions are unresolved. It's just amazing to see this happen in real time during a meeting.
We move into the next slide. What we're really looking at seeing within Copilot following a meeting is something called intelligent recap. Now, if we go to, say, a first thing on a Monday morning where we might have back-to-back meetings, we might not necessarily have time to kind of compile those meeting notes and get ready for the next meeting itself. What the intelligent recap will do is, following a meeting, it's pulled all of these notes together, provided that the recording and transcription was already turned on. Now, it will also break down by the speaker who's actually contributed what to a meeting, which topics were discussed, and even the chapters itself. Now, with those back-to-back meetings, let's say if it is that you are running 5 minutes behind within a meeting, and you'd click that follow button that we'd just previously seen, you can ask Copilot upon entering a meeting what's kind of gone on during the meeting itself. Really, really interesting. Now, if I was to mention one of my colleagues during the meeting, Copilot's intelligent enough to actually give that at mention. So no longer do I have to scroll through, say, a 1 hour, 48-minute meeting to see what content was available and where it was I was mentioned. I can click on my name itself and it will take me to that point within a meeting. Now, this is great for, say, virtual meetings, like in today's forum, for example, where we're meeting on a virtual kind of online presence. What would happen though if you're in a boardroom, saying there's multiple of you around the table? Now, Copilot has just released a feature called Intelligent Speakers, which will allow up to 10 people within the same room to actually deliver a similar experience whilst using Copilot. The devices that would need to be in kind of play, so the microphones, for example, they do need to be Microsoft certified Teams Rooms devices. And what that would enable you to do is, once you've gave your introduction to that microphone, it would know that I'm Mike, for example. We've got Armando in the room, could be Neil as well. And as each of us are speaking, that would then note down who's actually contributed what to the meeting itself. We're going to move into some of the productivity apps now within PowerPoint, Excel, and Word. So Stuart, if you can go to the next slide, please.
Copilot can also help you ensure everything you create is customized to your organization. Let's say you need to edit a slide for this presentation. Copilot can now pull in images from your brand or corporate image library. And soon, you can use DALL-E 3 to combine your corporate assets to fit your creative vision, so that great idea in your head comes to life in seconds, no photo shoot required.
Just a note there, one of the main points around the Copilot within PowerPoint, one of the questions I do get asked quite often is, would my branded template for my organization fit with Copilot? Can it recognize that? And the answer is yes, it can. Quite recently released again. If we want to play the Excel one.
Python in Excel brings the world of Excel and Python analytics together, and now Copilot is here to help you along the way. With the new PY function, you can use powerful Python libraries right within your Excel workbook to create compelling plots and visualizations, train machine learning models, and other advanced analytics. With Copilot, you don't need to be an expert. All you need are simple prompts. Want to estimate your future sales? Copilot can generate forecasts using one of the multiple Python libraries available through Python in Excel. You can then better understand and visualize the data by requesting a chart. With Copilot, you can create Python visualizations like multiplots to see how variables relate to each other, or use powerful data cleansing techniques such as regex to apply consistent formatting to your data, or apply machine learning models. Copilot brings the rich capabilities of Python in Excel to your fingertips.
One of the main things I do want to highlight with Excel, we can see a keyword up in that kind of top right hand corner of the Copilot box, which states preview. Excel is currently in a public preview and it's due to be released properly as a full product as of September, which this Python coding would then be available. But for now, if you were to use it while still in its preview state, there are still data insights. You can still absolutely interact with Copilot, and it's kind of in development and it's continuously getting better. So I'll give you the example of just within the last week, Copilot itself, you had to always interact within Excel as a formatted table, because the data on this screen here may look like if you took the rows 10 to 14 up to columns F, may look like good data, but it's not formatted as that table sense. Within the last week, Copilot and Microsoft have actually released the update where don't any longer have to format it as a table, but you can now start to analyze by individual cell, and Copilot can recognize that. If we move into Word, please, Stuart.
When you've written a paragraph in shorthand, you can highlight it and click Rewrite. Copilot then offers several alternate options to choose from that are all written professionally. And it can translate wordy or complex paragraphs into digestible visualized tables. You can even use Copilot to add a column with extra data, which it can complete automatically. Copilot also makes you the expert on any document. Simply ask a question about the content, and Copilot will provide a concise response.
So, as I say, if you would like to see those applications in further detail, ask it its own questions and go through kind of what the prompting looks like, absolutely reach out to the team at Kuiper, and they can support in pulling me onto the call if necessary to go through and deliver the demonstrations of those applications itself. If we go next slide, so Copilot itself is all around kind of initially showing that business value to kind of bring Copilot within your organization. It would be kind of what is the all-up value that it's necessarily saving you, and hopefully that is time. Time is money in a business sense. So whether that be summarizing a really long email, as we've seen, kind of catching up on meeting notes, the value by workflow. So if we look at Word, for example, in a HR environment, they might be writing and drafting a lot of policies, or marketing, generating a lot of ideas within PowerPoint. And then the value by role and function, kind of taking it back to those HR, marketing, sales. Sales could be, for example, analyzing data within Excel. So it's really about kind of Microsoft's approach to delivering that Copilot business value. If we go next slide, Stuart. Now, the main question is probably how do you get started? Obviously, this is a product that you can absolutely go ahead and kind of deploy, but just like we would walk out the house of a morning to go to work, we're probably making sure we've got our keys, wallet, phone, bag for the day, lunch if necessary. We really want to start getting started with Copilot though, and for those of you that might not have interacted with an AI model previously, some of you might have interacted with the likes of ChatGPT or Google Bard, for example. But there is a version of Copilot which is embedded within your web browser, and that is now just called, in generic terms, Copilot. It was called Bing Chat Enterprise for, I think, all of about 2 weeks. There is a Copilot readiness assessment as well that you can go ahead and request from Microsoft themselves. There is a small prerequisite to that assessment, and I do believe the prerequisite is 30 seats and above, but you can go ahead and request that itself. But then there's also the Microsoft 365 Adoption Hub. It's all well and good deploying these licenses, which we hope are going to save us time and kind of take it forwards. However, the knowledge and how do we actually go ahead and use it, the training and the initial adoption, as it states, that's kind of the key. So really looking at those pilot phases, getting those feedback within the internal teams to kind of deliver an all-up kind of value decision, if you like. If we go next slide, please, Stuart. So with regards to the AI options, there is a personal version out in the kind of in the retail landscape, if you like, for those who are just a generic consumer. But for those of us who are in the business landscape, Copilot with the commercial data protection is available with those Microsoft 365 licenses. And then there is, of course, the Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is what we're discussing today. You'll see the couple of additional ticks with the business version. So that commercial data protection, it's a really key and important point to note that Microsoft aren't using your data to train on that AI model, whereas other AI models out there have been. It's been documented. So I know at the kind of infancy of release, there was an American business who had put some sales data into ChatGPT and asked it to analyze that data itself. That had then taken that information and became a public source. So with Microsoft, you've got that layer of commercial data protection. The enterprise security and compliance part, Microsoft are going to respect the current privacy restrictions you've got within your tenant itself. So let's say if we've set a sniffer dog off at home kind of thing to go and find something, if you've got all of your doors open, like if you had no restrictions within your tenant, that dog could go and find something within your house and bring it back to you. Maybe something that you might not necessarily want it to find. So with your current restrictions that you might have in place, let's say the doors are closed to certain areas of that house, the sniffer dog no longer has access, so it has to respect those current privacies in place, exactly the same as Copilot for Microsoft 365 would. It does work within your Microsoft Graph. So if you're not aware of the graph itself, that's like an IT spider web. It's all of your data, your connectors, any information that sits within your organization will sit on top of the Microsoft Graph. And that graph, as I say, has that 20-foot walls around it. So Microsoft aren't letting that data move outside of that graph to train on that AI model. And it does integrate with the applications, as we've seen within the previous couple of videos. Now, with regards to the licensing itself, the Copilot for Microsoft 365 is £296.40 as kind of the retail price. However, the great thing around it is that you can co-term it with your current licenses in place. So let's say if you've only got licenses in place which are due to renew in, say, December, for example, or November, you don't have to pay that £296.40 because you can do something called co-terming that license. So instead of a 12-month cost up front, you might only pay the 5 months that are left are remaining. So it instantly brings that down. It's especially kind of valuable to those that kind of wanting to trial those licenses. They've only got a couple of months left on their original licenses itself. But if you need any more information around that, absolutely speak to the team at Kuiper and they can further assist you within that option there. With the Copilot for the web, we're just seeing here that the chat data isn't saved versus the Copilot for Microsoft 365. The responses are saved for auditing purposes. There is no eyes on access, so Microsoft aren't viewing the information that's put into Copilot for the web. And again, that data is not used to train that AI model. We go next slide, Stuart, please. Now, the free readiness assessment that I'd mentioned earlier on around claiming for, there's three kind of elements to this. So initially, Microsoft would deploy something called a Block 64 scan onto your tenant, and there's also a questionnaire just around zero trust. There are a few readiness metrics as well. So it would look at things such as your Microsoft 365 secure score, the Azure secure score, the type of licensing that you currently sit on, who's eligible, who's not eligible for Copilot, are people on security licensing or not, and then the optimization around some of the workloads that sit within your tenant itself. And then out the back of that, you will receive your readiness report itself. Very much works on a red, amber, green kind of traffic light system initially, but there'll be some highlighted recommendations towards the back end of this as well. If we go next slide, we should see some of those examples, I think, in a second. There are two kind of offerings to that scan itself of the Block 64. So for those less than 300 users, there is the Copilot readiness, and for those above the 300 users, it's a zero trust foundation. Even though it says the same day report generation, I'd still give Microsoft that kind of 2 to 3 days just to generate and pull all of those kind of findings into a report. It is very much the cloud environment, whereas the 300 users or above is also included in that on-premise side as well. And it kind of just looks at the licensing, security and optimization for Copilot, whereas the zero trust very much looks deeper into the security posture of an organization. Here's a few examples of some of the readiness report slides that you'd receive. So again, that summary. So are you ready? Are you not ready? Based on a traffic light system. Your zero trust kind of a maturity. So I know there's usually up to 36 points of zero trust. Where is it you currently score? What do your Microsoft 365 secure scores look like? And then also along with the licensing and optimization. Now, at the back of that, you'd then get those recommendations, which is fantastic to know. This is where we currently sit, and this is where we need to sit to kind of become ready, or we're already ready. Let's start trialing the license itself. If we go next slide. Brilliant. Now, alongside the Microsoft offering, we at Ingram Micro, who are supporting Kuiper around this, also offer something called a Copilot technical readiness, which is based upon, say, 300 seats or less along the left-hand side. or if it's above 300 seats, then it's the one down on the right hand side. You can see that there's a number of activities which are taken along this. On the left hand side, 7 hours is kind of the ballpark. I'd usually say about 8, but then it kind of takes, you know, up to that 10 days to kind of deliver on these activities based upon your availability and our availability as well, just to marry everything together. And then the plus 300 seats, there's a couple of, goes a lot more in depth versus say 1 hour to 4 hours, for example. But we will deliver on there kind of the Copilot readiness questionnaire. There is the core services, the security assessment, the compliance assessment, data repository, so where is everything sitting currently, cloud application, and also an interactive assessment playback. Out the back of this, because it's a lot more in depth, you then do get kind of a really kind of in-depth Copilot readiness report itself. But again, if that's something you're interested in looking further into, definitely contact the team at Kuiper. And then there's also the adoption hub as well. So for example, if you are sitting within a role and you're kind of sitting there thinking, don't quite understand, you know, how I would see value within Copilot for my role, say within finance, for example, you can use this adoption hub to go in and kind of learn how Copilot would work for you within your role. You can go in and kind of look at that overview. There's kind of case by case, you know, this is how you'd go in and construct a prompt kind of thing, but it's all around training and adoption within the adoption hub itself. It can be accessed on the link. It's in that kind of bottom right hand corner of the screen, but equally, you know, that's to be put in alongside your journey to get ready for Copilot itself. If we go next slide, please. Brilliant. And then it's on to the next step. So again, that start using that Copilot with the commercial data protection. So we mentioned that element of Copilot is very much free. You can access it via www.bing.com/chat, or it's already within your browser. If you were in your Edge browser, you'll see a little Copilot logo up in that top right hand side. There's a couple of resources here as well, which I'm sure will be shared within the follow-up of the session as well. But I'm going to hand back to Neil just to go through the last few bits.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Armando. So then we move into the Q&A session of the presentation. I can see that we already have one question from Alex. I'm not sure who wants to take this, but Alex has asked, what license do we need for Copilot intelligent recap of meetings? Is it Teams Premium or similar?
Yeah, I can take that one. So the intelligent recap is the only feature which crosses over from Copilot to Teams Premium. So I suppose really which set of features is it you want, and do you want it embedded into absolutely everything, or is it just the intelligent recap that you'd be looking for? I think it's a great stepping stone towards Copilot if you're looking for that recap of a meeting. But yeah, it is available in Teams Premium, but it's also available within Copilot for Microsoft 365.
If anybody else has got any questions, please just pop them in the chat. Of course, if you have any questions that you're prompted to beyond this session, if you reach out to your appropriate account managers, and we can either arrange for a session, or we can obviously answer those any questions or requests for information you may have. I'll just give it a few more moments, see if anybody else wants to pop a question in. So thank you, Phil. We've just got another question. So can Copilot be enabled / disabled on an app by app basis, i.e. Word or Excel?
So there is a new section within the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, which is all centered around Copilot itself. And yes, you can enable or disable Copilot on an app by app basis. Yeah, and it's all to do with kind of the Copilot extensions within Microsoft 365 itself. So yes, you can.
Great. Hopefully that answers your question, Phil. I say I'll give it a few more moments, see if there's any more questions before we sort of move to the final part. If you can see the Q&A, it's just at the should be at the top of your screen. Just tap anything into there, and we'll happily answer that here and now. Okay, doesn't seem like there's anything more. Oh, there is one more just come through. So thank you, Hugh. So we have, if a large proportion of your corporate data, e.g. customers' docs accounts, are held in non-365 systems that Copilot can't see, is there any point in going down the Copilot route?
So Copilot can see some of the information that's sat within an on-premise resource. There would require a small element of engineering, plugins, extensions to connect to those on-prem data sources. So absolutely, if you did have, say, if you weren't fully in the cloud and you were on, say, a hybrid environment, you can connect those data sources to see that on-prem data.
That's great. Thanks, Mike. Hopefully that helps you. As I say, with any of these questions, if you want to arrange a follow-up as well, so we can go into a little bit more detail and go through that information, we're more than happy to do. We do have Hugh again to clarify. These systems are line of business SaaS systems. So does that make any difference, Mike?
No. So the I think it was November. Microsoft had released Copilot to the ISVs to build connectors for applications. So it doesn't just have to be Microsoft specific data that would, that Copilot can see. So I know just from the image that's popping into my head, I can see that the Adobe kind of information is sat up in the top left of that particular image. But I know HubSpot, Expedia, MailChimp, there's a whole host of different SaaS applications and systems that Copilot can see. It is probably also important to note that Microsoft 365 Copilot is just one piece of the puzzle to Copilot itself. I think there is around 96 different versions of Copilot. Some of those do look at, say, Dynamics 365 or business applications. Some will look at Fabric or Power BI. In that instance, there's Copilot for the web, Copilot for Windows. There's not just the Microsoft 365 Copilot, but if you were to ask the question and give the scenario, we could find out which one was the right fit for you, because not every business has that same need.
That's great. Thanks, Mike. And hopefully, Hugh, that helps again. So if there's any further questions, please just still pop them on and we'll happily pick them up, and we can share those with everybody as well post the event. So Sue, if you want to take us to next actions, sorry, the slide before. So as I mentioned, please reach out to your account managers. Please speak to any of the team. We're happy to set up any sessions. If you've got further information you'd like, if you want to see a demo, want to know how to go through any of the options, want to get hold of any documentation or any sort of collateral, we can help with all of that. So please do reach out, and we'll be more than happy to assist in any way possible. I think that brings us to the end then. So if there's no more questions at this stage, just want to thank you all for attending. Really appreciate your time and taking your time this morning to listen to what we've got to discuss. Hopefully it's prompted a few ideas and thoughts around what's possible and what we can do along with Copilot to support your organization, and in particular some of the tools that can really help and transform the way that you operate within your organization. So thank you again, and I will let you all go to enjoy the rest of your day. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks all.